Hey everyone, wanted to do a video on explaining why I sold off a core position, HDIV, which has been a staple in a lot of my overview videos for a long time. It, I'm sure to many of you, this was a fund that I'd never sell off, but that's not entirely true. I think as investors, it's always good to not just be dogmatic and just say these are the forever funds. They're mostly the forever funds, meaning that yes, I do intend to invest in all these for the long term, but sometimes something better comes along that maybe is structured in a way that suits my goals a little bit better. And that's always the key point is investing in things that are attuned to your goals and where the destination for your money is to be. And right now, HDIV, it was a fund that I feel was in a portfolio that I am ever more increasingly is becoming more American. I've said this probably for over a year. I wanted my TFSA to be much more American focused for growth. So I've sold off funds like ENCL, UMAX, HMAX, BKCL back in the summertime. And so really the only remaining fund that had any large exposure to Canada was HDIV. Now I figured that maybe I'd wait until the sale of my home and get a non-registered account. Then I would maybe make a bit of a switch, like sell off HDIV and then maybe pick it up again inside of a non-registered account. And I'm always playing around with what that non-registered account has looked like. And many videos have shown that, but it's continually evolving what is the right mix of different funds in there. And HDIV has been just a stellar fund, distribution growth, couldn't be happier with it. And it's exposed to the right sector mixes, I find. So it's not about it being a terrible fund. It rarely is, because I wouldn't invest in what I figure are terrible funds. I only want what I think are the best funds for my situation. And so it's really just about timing and kind of what kind of moves I can potentially make right now. There's very little I can make because anything that I sell off, I reinvest pretty much right away. I don't hold cash on the side, I just put it out there. And with HDIV is no different. I just spread it amongst the other funds. So basically EQCL, HYLD, QQQY, they were all at 20%. So was HDIV. So I've just bumped these all up by 5%. And the remaining 5% I split between BMAX and HDIF to basically set this thing up as the mostly forever portfolio here for my TFSA. But maybe the only other changes I would possibly make, QQQY, if that were to become, if there was like a leverage version, maybe some other structured all-in-one that is somehow, I see it as better, maybe just something I can't even conceive of yet, but there's always that potential. But because HDIV is mostly Canadian stuff, I think the Canadian economy is probably going to see a bit of a rocky road in the short term, and potentially higher opportunities for when I decide to sell my home and decide to get into more Canadian stuff for those higher distributions and more tax efficiencies, which I want my non-leverage account to be. But really, the big catalyst, probably for the first time, was the announcement Chrystia Freeland is stepping down. What that just signaled to me is that this is a rudderless ship. There is somebody in charge steering a wheel, but the wheels just aren't turning. Between that and potentially Trudeau stepping down, policies that aren't conducive for attracting investment dollars into Canada, our GDP per capita is horrendous. Our housing is horrendous. Anyway, there's a few graphs I'll share with you all, but there isn't a lot of big confidence right now in the Canadian economy, along with tariffs from Trump coming, which I do believe are overblown. Not that it shouldn't be taken seriously. I just think media and whatnot have the amazing ability to just throw shrapnel everywhere with fear and get the heart pulse racing of investors. And us investors, we don't like uncertainty, and that's exactly why I'm pulling money out. I don't know what's going to happen with this Canadian economy. I want it to do well. I want it to invest in it, but in the short term, I just think we're in for some more short-term pain then we are in for any sort of gains. Now, as always, could be totally wrong, but like from what I see, I would like things to I think that we haven't reached a bottom with Canada. And that might sound counter if you look at how the TSX 60 has performed this year. It's up like 20%. But there just are other factors at play that I think will put downward pressure on that going forward, especially with a new administration in the US coming in. So there's been some unrealized gains I was able to take advantage of with HDIV wanting to be much more American focused, even more so. Uncertainty in Canada as far as the economy is concerned just led to me taking more of a serious look over the last, basically day after the announcement. I didn't sell it off right away. I think it's always good to at least at minimum take 24 hours just to like really understand what you're thinking of, make sure it's not emotionally driven. And that can happen to the best of us. So it's always good just to simmer down, slow down, and consider your options. This was already one that was already percolating. I was already thinking about. Most likely I pick up HDIV again. It'll just be inside a non-registered account. I'm already thinking about what that non-registered account, currently it's like ENCL 15%. Maybe UMAX or UTS at 15%. Then it's like bank at 15%, HDIV at 15%, and then the remaining 40% will be split between QQCL and USCL. So I'm already thinking about what that fund will exactly look like. But like I said, I wanted to show a couple of little graphs that I was able to find just to kind of highlight just how much of a precarious situation Canada is in currently. So this is real GDP per capita. It's just basically how much production are we getting out of every single Canadian. And what do you see here? Well, we were kind of on par with the US until 2015. I wonder what happened in 2015. There was a certain election that happened in 2015 that clearly changed the course of that production level for Canadians. And so we are just absolutely underperforming the US, which the knock-on effect is our standard of living. It's essentially going down in comparison to the US. Inflation eats at that. We are not a very productive society, and the numbers show it. Okay, so that's real GDP per capita, and we are falling behind the US, and I'm sure that only gets even that much more. Income needed to buy a house in the last 125 years. Now this is sourced by Zillow, so I take it this is on the American side. I'm sure there's a Canadian one out there, but this is just, I'll just say it's an American one. I'm sure the Canadian one would look a lot worse, but just look at this horrendous uptick in the kind of income you would need to afford the average home in America. And the average home in America is significantly cheaper than the Canadian homes. I want to say Canadian homes, the average Canadian home. Well, anyway, you would think that this would be a lot higher in Canada. So again, being able to afford a home, the prices have been exacerbated over the last long while. We're just not building enough. The government had come out with their immigration figures. Basically, they overshot, and now they have to pump the brakes on all of that so that public services like hospitals and housing construction can actually keep up with some of these numbers. Okay, so not building enough, not enough public service, and housing prices have gone up way too much. And that's why I talk about the whole selling my home, rent, and try to get some of that affordability back. I think with investing in CoveredCall ETFs, these styles of funds are meant to enhance quality of life and essentially get more with less. So I've talked about that extensively in other videos. So for me and my family, homeownership is just out of the equation. Could we afford the next step up? Maybe. We could maybe afford it, but I'm working more and it would not get me towards financial independence faster if I owned that. From what I've been able to calculate and do math on in regards to that, and I want to be in a position to be financially independent as soon as possible. And right now, home ownership is just not in the equation to allow for that. So basically, sell my home, take the equity in the home, offset the cost of a rental house, and we have that ability without really affecting our current what we spend for mortgages and strata and sewer bills that we get every year, property taxes, and all the maintenance costs and all the other stuff that's included with owning a home. All right, so we looked at that. Let's look at Canada business investment lags the U.S. Trudeau becomes prime minister, and look what happens. It's a total inversion. We are losing and not attracting capital like crazy. It really, you know what, I don't think that we as Canadians, I think we know that inherently, but it's so much more serious than I think we even realize. Even for myself, I'll speak of even for myself. I think it's way more serious than even I realize. When I look at graphs like this, it frustrates me that Canadians, we want prosperity, we want to be productive and effective, and we want to dream about starting businesses and being entrepreneurs, and that's one aspect that leads to just higher fulfillment and being able to serve others through the businesses and the things that we can offer. Like, just a small example, this channel helping people look at alternatives when it comes to investments and how to use those kinds of alternative investments, right? I don't know how many other channels talk about, right, selling homes and getting into rental homes and using investment income to support that, to cash flow that. I mean, just being able to offer alternatives and services to help, realize your own dreams through something as simple as a YouTube channel is just one way that I think our country just, we offer maybe a lot of incentives for what do you want to call it, like social programs and stuff like that, but what we need is an injection of like the entrepreneurial spirit, what it means to be a pioneering kind of Canadian when it comes to business and not relying on government to fulfill our needs. That we look to our communities, we look to the people around us to let's actually build stuff and improve this. Because if the big if the big institutions are fleeing Canada, guess what? The average plumber, the average teacher, the average janitor, the average engineer, the average person who invests, where are they investing for growth? In the US. The average person is not investing primarily in Canada for growth. They're investing in the US for that. So that's a trajectory we got to change. So with all that being said, between housing, real GDP, and the capital flight out of this country, I think right now it's probably just to take a little bit of Canadian risk off the table. Let things, if it's to find a bottom or find a lower place. I think that's, at least in my situation, I think my portfolio is just better suited right now just to have a bit of a hands-off approach to Canada. I will be back Canada. Don't you worry. I'll be invested again, like I just talked about with a potential non-registered account. But I'm doing that more for the yield and the tax efficiency. That's what I'm doing. I'm not doing it for the growth. That's why I'm implementing still some US stuff in the non-registered account for growth. So, you know what? Let me know in the comments what you all think in regards to that. Am I completely, wrong when it comes to that? How do you all feel about, investing in Canada right now? Again, I just feel that this is probably the right move for me for the next 6 to 8 months. Let's see how it does. If I'm completely wrong, then nothing much changes. Like, I'll just invest just how I talked about doing. It might be at a higher price. There's nothing really I can do about it right now until I sell my home. So let me know what y'all think. And as always, hit all the buttons of like and subscribe variety, and I'll see you all in the next video.